Hey everyone, there were many moments of heart to heart that made us giggle and belly laugh. Now let's go ahead and see some of those moments.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Now that I'm not out corralling cows and helping out the neighbors, I can finally address my public. And to do so right in front of what is clearly the mayor's office is a true honor. So first, of course, I'd like to thank the many people who voted for me. Given Hope Valley's history with fires, the teacherage, the church, the oil derricks, we've had a number of big fires in town, and I think it's time that we address it properly with some fire safety, and especially given the fact that Elizabeth is likely to go out on more dates, perhaps even a proposal at some point, the number of candles that are going to be lit in this town. It's high time we had appropriate equipment and an appropriate approach to fire safety. It's not a matter of if, but when.
I would say we forged a connection through toots.
You know, boys will be boys.
Wow. Okay. Now we did hear that Peter DeLuise did bring Highland out with a lot of sort of potty humor. So is that what you're saying? Yeah. Potty humor is the key?
Potty humor was part of it from Peter's end, making like noises. But no, I'm talking about literally being tooted on by Highland. On one
no!
I had him in my arms, and I felt wind. I felt something in my arm, and I just look at him, and he just burst out laughing. Just with like a cackle from the gut, like it was the most hilarious thing that could possibly happen. And then he ran over to his mom after and said something along the lines of, "I tooted on my TV, Dad."
And speaking of comedic timing, the $23 well spent dress. Oh my. Can we talk about that one for a second? Was that a one take and done? Did you? I mean, the timing of that perfection. I mean, by all of you, all three of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and as you know, Loretta's a fantastic comedic actor. You know, as is Jack Wagner. So yeah, that came together beautifully. And I think more than anything, it was Elizabeth's writing. Like you just read that scene, and it just jumped off the page. We were all like, oh, we know we know how to do this. You know, and I have to give another credit to Peter DeLuise. He's so good at. You know, it's so much of it is camera and timing and who lands where and who does what. And so he created the physical physicalization of that scene really beautifully. So all we kind of had to do was, you know, show up and just vibe with the moment and, you know, do that blocking and then say those lines at the exact right moment. And it all came together. And so, yeah, we didn't have to do very many takes.
I really want to know what the conversation was with Rosemary and Lee when Rosemary is, you know, telling him that he will have to have some costumes going to the office. I'm like, what would that look like?
I know. I feel like Rosemary, what I felt like probably happened is Rosemary said, "Oh, we're going to dress up for Halloween." And Lee would say, "Oh, that sounds fun." And then she pulls out her trunk of real costumes. He was probably thinking, "I'll wear an eye patch and that'll be it." She's like, "Oh, no. And let me bring out my curling iron and do your hair."
Do his hair.
When you were talking about the armor, and you were clutching it even on camera. It's like,
yeah.
So there's a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's also, I have such massive pectorals.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah, getting in the way.
That was the first thing I thought of.
We just didn't want to say that.
Yeah, we're trying to be respectful. So we got talking about all of the romantic moments this season, which there have been many. And of course, Hearties have been all over the board about their favorite romantic moment. We had the gas station moment with the "should we marry?"
At the top of the romantic moment list is the gas station scene.
There's a scene at I think it might be one of my favorite scenes. Around there at night, there's a campfire. Lucas and Elizabeth have just been sort of jousting a little bit about, you know, spring weddings or fall weddings, and And then just at the end of their sentence, you hear this feathering in of the accordion. And then we cut to Gustav with his head sort of cocked, and he's joined in the conversation. It's just,
I love it.
it's just super fun.
Finally, I have Santa Claus. And I said, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll get the whole thing at once, all the parade coming out, and we'll get Santa Claus coming out. But here's what happened. So Santa Claus comes out, and for reasons we don't understand, the two big, and we had all the elves, the little kids all around this wagon. So it's a dangerous scene to begin with. And suddenly the horses starting rearing up. And they stopped in the street and they started swaying back and forth. We screamed to the kids to panic, that they knew we were given instructions. If anything goes wrong, you guys go to the outside of the set. So they bailed to the outside of the set. The wrangler can't get the horse to go. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? I don't understand what's going on. All right, reset everything. Exactly the same spot, the horses rear up and they're doing this thing. Kids go, I don't understand. None of us understand what's happening. None of us.
We'd be like, in that particular scene that he's talking about was a Christmas season. I had the Santa Claus. And we're trotting through town, and all of a sudden, Santa starts going, ho, 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 and my horses stop.
Oh, that's what it was.
The bay team that they're talking about that was pulling them is a scene that my daughter drove, and they're very well broken. They pull the stagecoach every time, but they're very well broke. So you could be flat out galloping and say, whoa, and they're stopping.
And the third time it happened, it literally happened a third time. And my AD, Bill Mizell, he said, oh my gosh. I said, what? He said, it's Kevin. I said, what? Well, he's going, Santa Claus, ho, ho, ho. The horse is here. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
My word.
Who knew? They're going, well, we're supposed to stop. And they're like, go, go. No, we're supposed to stop. No, go, go, go. He's saying, whoa, I don't understand. What? So, okay, take 4. Kevin goes, and we put the sound in later, and it worked perfectly. It was a beautiful scene. But I didn't know going into that it was going to be almost a disaster.
Okay.
Who knew?
A colleague that went to Juilliard, and she did, like, we're in corporate world. She just boomed out. I mean, like an aria. And I'm like, geez, oh, Pete. I mean, her voice was, yeah.
And I have to say, I thought that was pretty special just now when you said, geez, oh, Pete.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard that. Geez, oh, Pete. Where are you from? Is that a Texas thing?
Probably Northern Indiana, Chicago.
Midwest.
World.
Yeah. Do you say it too, Jeanette?
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
Well, geez, oh, Pete.
I remember that I tweeted, I think it was season 2 when Lee was introduced. And when you see it on the screen, it was like, okay, how did they get that kind of chemistry? And then I think someone tweeted and you said you didn't have any chemistry read.
We did not. Honestly, serendipitous.
Yeah.
Serendipitous. It that it worked out as well. I wasn't even told when his character showed up. I wasn't even told that that was a potential love interest for Rosemary.
All right. Well, the truth is that she called production and asked them to bring her love interest. So she requested me.
Requested you specifically.
Clearly.
No, not really.
Because if you remember the beginning of season 2, there was still the dynamic with Jack going on. And so my mind was still kind of on that, like, oh, how's that going to resolve itself? And then I had these few scenes and I remember thinking, oh, like, what's happening here? Like, is this, and I didn't even know that his character was going to stay on the show for a long time. I wasn't sure if he was just coming in to do like a couple episode guest star. I just didn't know anything. Kevin, on the other hand, had been told that he was going to be potentially a love interest for my character if the chemistry was there. So the stakes were high for him, but I was oblivious. I didn't know anything.
There wasn't a really strong sense that that's what they wanted to do. Let's just see if there's any chemistry here, because that could be a possible way to go. So it was really sort of a superficial fishing expedition, and I only knew the surface. They were just like, well, we're just going to see if you and Pascal hit it off, and we really did.
And that scene, especially where he's on the motorcycle and then Rosemary hops on the back.
Yeah.
People have mentioned that scene to me, that they were like, that was a turning point where it was kind of like no looking back. These two are destined to be together.
During season 9, Heart to Heart went deep. We had a lot of goosebumps. So please enjoy these heartfelt moments from Heart to Heart.
We tend to have a lot of discussions with John and the directors for every single episode.
Yeah.
For the purposes like of that chapel scene, because like you said, it's so nuanced and there's so many layers, and every word that we say is so loaded. And it's also trying to keep almost like the composure, even in that chapel scene, and you're feeling so much and you don't know what to do with that amount of emotion. Angela never asked. She never asked about it.
No.
Yeah. And maybe I went through life thinking she never would. And well, actually, it never crossed Minnie's mind. Why didn't it cross our mind? We never spoke about this, She
didn't ask the question.
And everything is so loaded that I almost feel like you almost can't act it, because there's so much going on and so much that you're feeling and thinking. And all of that we would express to John and the writers, just to make sure that everything that we do is so true to life.
Yeah.
And the Hearties have been so great with letting us know that they can relate to it, which is really, really means a lot to us.
It does. There was a responsibility that Natasha and I have talked about from day one, from very first meeting between the two of us. It was, you want to do this right. And it really became a thing about like, I'm glad we got the part, because talking to each other about the responsibility of doing this, it wasn't just like, oh, 2 actors got a part and we're like, oh, right, hooray. That's not what's happening. This is we have to ensure that the people that came before us are getting some recognition about how gracious they were going through the hardest times. Anytime you talk about the best times, you have to talk about now, because it's, there can't be attached to any time before. It was hard. It was always harder before.
If it all ended for me now, right? I could finish my life feeling like I had accomplished something really meaningful, or been part of a movement that had accomplished something really meaningful. And the very best legacy, and I'm right about this, and nobody will ever be able to dissuade me from this. The very best legacy of When Calls the Heart is not When Calls the Heart. It's the Hearties.
I never looked at it like there's 2 leading men, or there's 2, the person that doesn't get picked, or the person that does get picked is going to be like this leading man. It's just, it's how it's going to affect the story being told through Elizabeth's eyes.
Yes.
I honestly think, and I don't know why they didn't do this, when they were kind of talking, and when the bomb went off in season 8, why they didn't, and they were like, it's a show about a mounting a teacher and a bounty a teacher. And if I was, if I had any say in how to advertise a show or write or whatever, I would have said it still is about a mounting a teacher. It's just in this one, they can find each other as friends. Like, that they both have, it still is about 2 people trying to make trying to do the best thing for the town and help the town as they can. One's, nurturing young minds, and the other one's kind of protecting it from evils. And they could have been like, it's just that the mountain, the teacher in this one, are friends, and they can fight each other, they tell each other problems, and they go out and, and she has a relationship with Lucas, and he's, doing whatever he's doing, dealing with raising a child would be his biggest thing. But it just, the dynamic changed. Like, it's still kind of the same thing. It's just the dynamic changed.
Right.
It might sound weird to hear this, but the McKinnis land has really good energy. And I think we all feel that. And I think certainly our team brings some of that with them. But you know, even that first day you step onto Jamestown, there's that sort of feeling to it. And that, I think the land has something to do with that.
For all of us, our number one was Henry and Joseph in the jail, and mailing and the conversation about, I don't know how to pray.
Oh my gosh, it really gets me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
gonna tear up now.
I know.
Oh.
He's so humble. He's so remarkably humble and broken. And Joseph turns to take his hat off and turns back, and the guy's kneeling. I mean, it's just
almost like he kind of tumbled down there. It just
yeah. There must have been something in his past, some religion or some faith or some touch point, and he had obviously gone far from it. And he just admit, I love the way he's so broken. He's so humble.
Well, that performance is so right there. I mean,
hey, Hearties. During Heart to Heart, we had some moments that really made our jaws drop. Some wildly surprising moments.
Really fun. And the reason my name is on that is because for props and like for acting and stuff, they did need, obviously we didn't write the whole book, but they did need some of the book. I don't even know if any of the pages were viewable kind of, but we did write them. Like I wrote 3 chapters that were the last chapters of the book, and 6 chapters that were like the first chapters of the book, and kind of planned out the arc of the book. So if you see those pages you see, and it's things that, you know, she's referenced before. And so there is like part of it that exists, and it's mapped out in a way so we could reference it, because when you have a real book, you kind of need that stuff. And I got to write it last season, and it was really fun because it was actually one of the first times I got to write with Elizabeth's point of view, because it was before I had written in the show. So it was a great exercise for me to kind of get to know her and think about how she would think about the world. So that was so fun for me, and to have that stuff. And so I think last season you kind of saw the end. There was like 3 chapters because we didn't know what we would need or on the day. So I wrote it out. And so some of it exists. I would obviously love if we could read it, even if somebody else wrote it, I'd love to read it. But yeah, I think it would be just fun for the same reason I had so much fun writing those parts. I think it would be so fun to read it, because I'd love to see the world with only Elizabeth's perspective, like, in how she sees it.
Jack proposing to Elizabeth was original. No one knows this. This is, I think, the first time this is being revealed. That originally was supposed to be the words "Marry Me" on the side of the water tower, and Hallmark kibosh at the 11th hour. And they turned to me and they said, "Do you have an idea?" And I said, "Well, yeah. How about we use the pond as a reflecting pool for a whole bunch of candles in front of the church?" And they're like, "Okay, let's do that." And I say, we can justify it and say the whole town came out and helped out while Abigail distracted her, and then that'll be the justification for all these candles.
I remember walking out of the trailer on set for the proposal, Elizabeth, the proposal with Jack, and I've never seen this many candles in my life. And somehow our amazing crew, it was windy and they were keeping them going. It was incredible.
Wow.
And we were going to use candles anyway as a way of having her come around the corner and look at the water tower.
Oh my gosh.
But we had it lead to the pool. So that was another thing that I helped.
You just got to take a pause for a second, because it's just a lot to absorb that it was going to be on the water tower. That is really something. Wow. And the shot of her walking through the candles and her skirt and the whole,
where she takes the step of candles. That is an awesome scene. I love that scene.
It was fun. It was reminiscent of the beginning of the Wizard of Oz, right? When she goes down the Yellow Brick Road. Do you remember that?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's what inspired that shot. Wasn't that fun? Yeah.
That's amazing.
I didn't understand the show. I didn't know I didn't know any of the people yet. And I was just kind of standing around in this town that is a town, but it's not a real town. Like it's sort of period piece because it's a sort of place that doesn't really exist, and I didn't understand it in the beginning. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure what my relationship is to anybody, any of the other actors yet. And Martin took me aside and he's like, whatever you do, get along with everybody, do your best on the show. This is going to go for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Knew that 8 years
Smart
ago.
guy. Smart
Yeah,
guy.
smart guy.
Since we bought the last wedding dress for Elizabeth, I would actually like to build this one from scratch.
That would be fun.
Which would be
yes.
probably my way to go. There is a fabric I bought last time and we didn't use, which I think could still be used.
Oh.
I actually bought a white fabric for myself as well, which I didn't use, which could be actually maybe even better than the other one I'm thinking.
Oh.
No, because you just never know, like with fabrics, right? Like I kind of unfortunately collect fabrics as much as I could. No, I think it really depends what they will write, right? I read somewhere that if you have a second wedding, especially during that time, it probably the wedding dress shouldn't be white. So that's something, another thing to keep in mind. So you never know.
But you have all this lovely white fabric.
I know.
Yes, I don't know. We will see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that the very end of the very last scene with Lucas and Elizabeth was originally, so here's magic that happens sometimes. That scene was originally written as a night scene. He didn't get back with the motorcycle till late at night. And it was originally a night scene. And it was originally taking place sitting on the steps of the Mercantile, which is all well and good and fine. But during the day, the light was beautiful and it was really great. And we were having a really, really good day. And the DP and I started talking. I said, wouldn't this be nice if this could make this day? And so we started to explore what we might do. And we thought, what if we put it by where we put it in the end, by the gas station, and sat them down there. So we phoned John Tinker and said, listen, we want to change this. Could we do it? And he was all over. He loved the idea. And sitting them there, the way it ended up in the beautiful light of dusk, as it was just setting, and the body language of the way they were sitting, kind of not side by side, but kind of opposed to each other. I knew we had a magical scene. I just knew it. And Chris and Aaron, we really want to do this at night. I said, trust me, this is going to work so well.
We fought him on that. We were,
that's what he said.
We were problem children. I know, but we didn't see the vision in the look. We all are protective of our characters, but it is because we want to make sure we're telling the story the best possible way for all of you guys. And when Chris and I read that scene, we read it as this like very intimate evening scene where it was fully dusk, and it just wasn't what we were being pitched. And we were like, okay, wait a minute. Do you just want to go home early? Is that what's happening here? Because, but no, they had this great idea, and it really came together magically.
We were way ahead of schedule, first of all. So we would have had to wait for night. And what happens when we're in that position is we sometimes pull up other scenes from later in the schedule that we might be able to do. And we were doing all the mechanics that we do to get our day. And it just occurred to us that there might be something special about doing it this way. And, it harkens back very quickly, those of you that remember when Daniel first showed Aaron Elizabeth the church, that beautiful scene again in this light, that was written as an interior at night with the church not being finished. And I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm going to go into an unfinished building. You don't get to see it. It's got paint cans around. And he's showing off. That doesn't make sense. And again, we literally were racing, what we call racing the light. And we shot that scene in 20 minutes. We had 20 minutes before the sun went down to get that scene. And we got it with a crew. They all embraced the idea, and they said, oh my gosh, let's do it. And we rushed out and rushed the dress, the beautiful gold dress onto Elizabeth, onto Aaron, and that shot of the church and the two of them coming up. And we had this magical scene. So what happens sometimes on the day, the writers are great. don't get me wrong, they're beautiful and they come up with ideas, but on the day, sometimes you just see an opportunity, and I'm reminded that John Ford, the great director, said that a good movie has no bad scenes and one great one, preferably at the end. And I thought we managed that. So in that way, I knew we had something special then. That you guys have said it's the whole episode. Well, thank you. Okay, we'll take that.